Good afternoon, members. I think it's already time. It's 4:30, so I call to order the open meeting of the Committee on Members' Interests. For today's agenda, there are two items. First of all, outcome of consultation with members on the proposed revisions to the procedure for handling complaints. That's the first one. The second one, that's about the outcome of consultation with members on proposals in relation to the disclosure of pecuniary interests under Rule 83A of the Rules of Procedure. Well, the clerk to the Committee on Members' Interests, in view of the decision made by the CMI at its meeting on the 29th of April, issued a circular to members on the 5th of June to seek members' views as to whether they would agree to the proposed revised procedure for handling complaints. So a questionnaire was sent out to all members to consult their views. As to the outcome, it has already been sent out to members via the paper CMI 14 to 15. So the outcome has been set out in the paper. To facilitate your discussion, I would like to invite the clerk to report to us about the outcome of consultation with members. He'll highlight the main points. For the proposed procedure for handling complaints, you find the procedure in Annex or Appendix 1. Well, please take a look of the existing procedure behind the blue tab in your file. For the detailed outcome, you'll find it in Annex 3. Let me briefly, or Appendix 3. 50 members agree to the adoption of the proposed revised procedure, accounting for 72%. 3 members disagree, 3 members have no view. 13 members, the other 13 members disagree with certain parts of the proposed revised procedure, though they agree with the rest of the revised procedure. 8 members disagree with the proposed amendment that the complainant's identity will be disclosed through the member under complaint and in any report on the complaint made by CMI to the Council. 4 members disagree with the proposed amendment that CMI will not consider any complaint lodged by a person who has refused to allow his or her identity to be disclosed. 10 members disagree with the proposed amendment that the clerk to the CMI be authorized to dispose of complaints which CMI will not consider or that do not fall within the CMI's purview. You'll find the details in paragraph 2 of the proposed revised procedure. They propose instead that a 3-person panel comprising the CMI chairman and other members should be set up to examine such complaints. So 91% are in agreement, 3 have no view, and 3 disagree. So maybe we should go over the proposals one by one. We have already discussed the content of the proposals. First of all, we have to consider whether we would agree that the CMI would only deal with the complaints made by complainants whose identity will be disclosed. Some members have other views, so please tell us how many disagree. Each of them? 8. 8 members have reservation. Well, let's take a look. You can regard that there are altogether 12. Please take a look of Appendix 3. Yes, under Appendix 3, there is a note. Footnote 1. 8 members, DP members and Yip Kin Yun, and 4 members from the Labor Department. They disagree and they think that they can't agree with the proposal that only when the identity is disclosed will the complaint be handled. Well, we have in the past decided that we won't deal with anonymous complaints. So it has to be a named complainant. I don't think we have changed our decision. But then some members are of the view that when we are to dispose of the complaint finally, well, currently there's no clear definition as to whether disclosure of the identity of the complainant is mandatory. Now we want to clarify this point. That is, if we agree that we can only deal with named or non-anonymous complaints, then in our report we should also disclose the identity of the complainant. In other words, the complainant's identity should be known to the member complained against, and also the report should also indicate the presence or the existence of such a complainant. This is also the practice in the UK. Maybe the clerk can also supplement some information for our reference. Mr. Chairman, thank you. In UK, again, they won't deal with anonymous complaints. In the UK, after they have investigated into a case, in their report, they will set out the name of the complainant. If the complainant himself or herself is a member, he or she has to give a copy of his complaint to the member whom he or she complains against. Now, we are saying that the identity should be disclosed. We want to make it clear so that it won't be inconsistent, some being disclosed, some not. So we want to standardize it, and then it's better to have clarity. So members, any views? Yes, some members may have another view, but the majority of the members, according to the outcome of the survey, disclosure is the main stream idea. Well, I agree. If the complainant is not anonymous, then it means that he's not worried to be identified, and we don't deal with non-anonymous. We don't deal with anonymous complaints. So if it is for the sake of justice, I don't think one should worry about one's identity being disclosed. Mr. Lam, I think this is how we have been dealing with the complaints and has been proved to be effective, and it isn't something created by us. As the clerk has pointed out, this is also the practice in the UK. So I agree with the proposal. All right. Now it appears that members don't have a lot of strong views. So in accordance with the majority's view found in the survey, we'll adopt this proposal. How many altogether who are in support? 50 members agree totally. For this particular point, there are 12 members who have some opinions. So 50 are in support. All right, another point that we need to deal with in relation to this paper is as follows. That is, whether the CMI will consider complaints that do not fall within the CMI's purview and how this is to be handled. Now, the existing procedure is as follows. When a complaint is received, the clerk will refer it to the chair. The chair will take a look to check whether it is in line with the requirements. Say, for example, to check whether it is anonymous and whether you are complaining against an incumbent member. Now, what we're saying is that we won't deal with complaints against a member who has ceased to be a member for 7 years or more. So if somebody has only left the office for 6 years, any complaint against him will still be handled. And it's up to me to make a decision. I'll take a look. Or if I say that this is outside the purview of the CMI, and in fact it is found in this handbook, that is whether you have declared your interest, etc., and whether you have said clearly what you possess. If it goes beyond our purview, then the chair can immediately say no to the complaint and won't go ahead with an investigation. This is the existing requirement. Now, last time the discussion was that, in fact, it didn't need the chair to make a ruling, because it's very clear. All I have been doing is to check against the existing requirements. So as soon as I see that the subject of complaint was a member 8 years ago, then the proposal is that the clerk can make a decision. There's no need to consult me. The clerk can cite this as the reason to say that the complaint will not be handled. Or if it is an anonymous complaint, then again we won't handle it. So it will be simpler. But then a number of members are suggesting that it won't be appropriate for the clerk to deal with it, and it's better to form a panel, a 3-person panel comprising the CMI chairman and 2 other members from different political parties to examine such complaints. So there is this alternative proposal. Mr. Lam, we have a system, then it means we have to follow the system. It is like you have a piece of legislation and you have to act accordingly. Otherwise, what's the purpose of having the chair? What's the purpose of having a system? Chair, you have been fair and just, and I'm sure if you encounter such complaints, we'll deal with them fairly. If something falls outside the system, if something doesn't meet our requirements, then I think the clerk doesn't have to seek your advice or set up a panel, because it is an either-or case, and I think currently the guide is already very clear. Mr. Yik. Mr. Chairman, of course I can appreciate the alternative views put forward by other members. If you put it forward for choice, I would rather leave it with the chair than having 2 other members joining the chair to make a decision. Now I have a question. Now, if we adopt the proposal, then the clerk will just follow the procedures and dispose of the complaint. Are you going to inform members saying that something has been received and you're going to handle it in this way? Clerk, we will notify the complainant that it won't be handled, and then this message will be circulated among members. Well, in the past, when the chair, that is when I myself made a decision, I still had to tell colleagues, and this has been the practice in the past. Now we are saying that it doesn't have to come to me, and as long as the clerk has checked against the procedures, then he can deal with it. I think this is like delegation of authority, so that we don't have to get the board to make decisions about each and everything. But then every time when there is a board meeting, there must be a summary of things done, decisions made. Now, our practice is that we don't have to wait until the next meeting. Once you have given a reply to the complainant, you are going to circulate a note to us, right? I think it is an improvement. So, regarding the revision of the procedure, I think the 2 are the main points to be dealt with. Any other views? No? Then we will act accordingly. And it means that we have to revise our handbook, and that's it. But then how are we going to notify all the members? Clerk, Once the committee has endorsed the revision, then, as we have done in the past, the clerk will send a notice to all members to inform them of the new procedures. So that would be the procedure. Just now, I haven't heard any different views, so I suggest that we adopt the two revisions. First of all, that is, the CMI would only handle complaints from complainants who are willing to disclose their identity. Secondly, the CMI endorses that the clerk will be authorized to dispose of complaints which the CMI will not consider or that do not fall within our purview. All right, the two proposals have been endorsed, and then all the procedure, and then the revised procedure has been adopted.
So we will amend the procedure and implement it. Now the second out of agenda, now outcome of a consultation with members on proposals in relation to disclosure of pecuniary interest under Rule 83A of the Rule of Procedure. Now, on the 29th of April, there was a meeting, and there was a notice on 24th of June, that is concerning this issue. There would be a questionnaire, and the results are available now, and we can deal with it now. And let's have a report on the results of the questionnaire. Now, paragraph of 3 mentions two proposals to consult members. First, to exclude common pecuniary interest from the requirement of Rule 83A on disclosure of pecuniary interest by members in the council or any committee or subcommittee, and to require members of a committee or subcommittee on legislative proposals to disclose a pecuniary interest when they first speak on a matter in the committee, subcommittee, and repeated disclosures of the same interest at subsequent meetings of the same committee are then not necessary. Now, the results of the disclosure are in Appendix 2, and the 58 members agree with the proposal. That is 84% on Proposal 1, 9 disagree, 2 have no view. On Proposal 2, that is no repeated disclosure, 60 members or 87% agree to the proposal, and 7 disagree, and 2 have no views. So what we need to discuss today concern Rule 83A. We will add a requirement making clear that any meeting, including the LegCo, the committees and subcommittees, when you have disclosed when it comes to disclosure of pecuniary interest, then one doesn't have to disclose common pecuniary interest. That is, it is common to the rest of the population or a sector of the population of Hong Kong. In that case, we call that a common pecuniary interest. Now, in the past, this is not specified in 83A, but it is in 84 of Rule of Procedure. So that's in relation to voting. So for voting, there is no need to disclose common pecuniary interests. Now, so we think there should be consistency with Rule 83A. That's why we have this amendment. And the results have been spelled out by the clerk. 58 members agree with the proposal, and that's 84%. Is there anything not clear? If not, we follow the majority decision and adopt the proposal. Any questions? Any comments? No. If not, that means we accept the amendment. Thank you. Next issue. Now, in committees to vet legislative proposals. Now, this originated in a meeting on the legislation on stamp duty. Now, so that is a common situation because we all buy properties, our own property. So you have to, when you find that you have a pecuniary interest, you have to disclose it. And do we have to disclose it every time? And we understand that there are similar situations or circumstances abroad. In UK, in New Zealand, etc., common pecuniary interests do not have to be disclosed. In the UK, this is spelled out with regard to common pecuniary interests. Now, this applies to Bills Committee. This doesn't apply to panels or to the council meeting itself, because the panels are not on a particular topic, but the Bills Committees, they are all the meetings are on the same issue every time. So the legislatures abroad show us that the legislators only disclose in the first meeting. The important point is that the disclosure is in an open manner. Now, the public will learn whether a member has pecuniary interests at heart when he speaks, so that people consider it unfair. Now, the Bills Committee all along will deal with just one matter in its meetings, so you only need to, in Bills Committees and subcommittees, when vetting regulations or bills, you do not have to disclose the pecuniary interest each and every time. So 87% or 60 members agree with this proposal. Mr. Jeffrey Lam agree with the amendment. Now, in the committee, Bills Committee on Stamp Duty, now at every meeting, there has to be a declaration of interest, so the time adds up. Now, the existing provision is that one has to declare before one speaks. So now it says that it has to be declared in the first meeting, so it can be disclosed after one speaks. Well, it says that the meeting has to disclose the interest when he speaks in the first time. Should it be before he speaks? We didn't amend that. So when you speak, you have to declare your interest. If you don't speak, then you don't declare. So after he speaks, then he declares, yes, it's when he speaks. In the course of speaking, one can declare that. Now, that is not changed. In any case, if you speak in the first meeting and then you declare your interest, then you don't have to further disclose in subsequent meetings. Should it be the first time one speaks? Now, if he doesn't speak in the first meeting and then he speaks in the second meeting, what will happen? Let's ask the legal advisor. Now, actually, we have not amended existing requirements. We only made an exception that when there is a meeting of the Bills Committee or subcommittee on subsidiary legislation, then one has to make a declaration at the first meeting. Then you meet the rule of procedures requirement. So you don't. But the question by Mr. Lam is, suppose the member didn't speak in the first meeting. It's when he speaks for the first time. That's what I want to clarify. At the first meeting that the member attends when he speaks, or whichever meeting, it doesn't have to be the first in that series of meetings, but it's the first time he speaks in a meeting that he attends. For instance, he didn't attend the first meeting, he attends the second time. Then when he speaks at the second meeting, then he needs to declare or disclose. Now, if he is not in the second meeting, then he speaks in the third meeting, and then he has to disclose. Mr. Yu Kim Ming, I'd like to ask the clerk. Now, such declaration of interest, will it be recorded in the minutes of the Bills Committee? Now, some members were not able to attend the first meeting. I disclosed my interest, but the other members might not know. But they will know when they read the minutes. Anything else on this point? If we accept, so we all accept this amendment? We agree? And so then we need to submit this for discussion by the Committee on Rules of Procedure, and that committee will then submit our report. So the report will be submitted to the Committee on Rules of Procedure, and if that committee agrees with our amendments, then the proposal will go to the House Committee. The report will be delivered at the House Committee, and then it has to be submitted to the Council to amend the Rules of Procedure. Now, the CMI. Now, when the report is made to the Council, will be a resolution. I will move that motion, not the CMI. So the CMI decision will have to go through these procedures. And House committee, and then the council, and then it must be passed by with a division. So we agree.
We are highly efficient, and with your endorsement, I think that takes us to the third item on the agenda, AOB. If you haven't got anything under AOB, then I declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you.